The silent vanguard. The vastness of space held many secrets, but none more carefully guarded than Earth's true defensive capabilities. For centuries, humanity had watched from afar as the Zaxian Empire conquered world after world, system after system, their purple-hulled warships leaving broken civilizations in their wake. The Zaxians were tall, elegant beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their moods, most commonly the deep crimson of battle lust. They considered themselves the apex predators of the galaxy, and until now no species had proven them wrong. Earth had remained isolated, seemingly primitive by galactic standards. The Sol system sat at the edge of a spiral arm, unremarkable and resource-poor compared to the jewels of the galactic core. Human ships were slow, boxy, and appeared technologically rudimentary. The few alien traders who bothered to visit Earth returned with tales of a species barely capable of interplanetary travel, let alone posing any threat to the established powers. This perception was precisely what Earth's Defense Council had carefully cultivated for over a century. Admiral Zex Terrell of the Zaxian Empire stood on the command deck of the inevitable Conquest, his flagship that stretched nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern. The enormous viewscreen showed Earth's solar system in meticulous detail. The small defense platforms around Mars and Jupiter, the scattered mining operations in the asteroid belt, and finally, the blue jewel itself surrounded by what the Zaxians considered laughably primitive orbital stations. "They don't even have planetary shields," sneered Commander Vexora, Zex Terrell's second-in-command. Her skin rippled with amused yellow patterns. Their largest weapons platform could be destroyed by a single cruiser. Admiral Zex Terrell's skin remained a steady, confident purple. "The reports indicate they refused our demands for surrender. Apparently, they wished to negotiate as equals." The bridge erupted in chittering laughter. "Shall I send the first wave, Admiral?" Vexora asked. "Or would you prefer to send another warning?" "Let's indulge them," Zex Terrell said with a dismissive wave of his long, 6-fingered hand. "Send a final communication. Let them see the full might of our fleet before we begin. Perhaps they'll reconsider their position." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean on Earth, Commander Maya Chen stood in the heart of Facility Zero, the most classified installation on the planet. Around her, technicians monitored screens displaying the approaching Zaxian Armada. Over 200 warships arranged in the Empire's signature spearhead formation. "They're broadcasting, Commander," Lieutenant Williams announced from his station. "System-wide." Chen nodded, her expression betraying nothing of the tension she felt. At 45, she had spent half her life preparing for this moment, overseeing the development of Project Harbinger. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Zex Terrell's imposing figure. His voice boomed through the command center. "People of Earth, your primitive defenses cannot hope to stand against the might of the Zaxian Empire. We have conquered civilizations far more advanced than yours. Your isolation ends today. Surrender your world and your resources, and we will be merciful. Resist, and we will turn your oceans to steam and your cities to ash." Chen let the message finish before speaking. "Send our response." The communication officer nodded, and Chen stepped forward. Her voice was calm, measured, and betrayed no fear. "This is Commander Maya Chen of Earth Defense. We have received your demands and reject them categorically. The Sol system is sovereign human territory. Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will be forced to defend ourselves with all means at our disposal." The response from the Zaxian flagship was immediate, laughter clearly audible over the channel before it was deliberately cut. "They're advancing," announced Tactical Officer Raman. "First wave of 20 destroyer-class vessels moving toward Mars orbit." Chen took a deep breath. "Very well. They've made their choice." She turned to her executive officer. "Commander Okafor, authenticate Harbinger protocol." "Authorization, Chen 77 Echo Blackbird." Commander Okafor nodded grimly. "Authentication confirmed. Harbinger protocol active." Chen turned to the primary tactical station. Begin Phase 1. Throughout the solar system, deep within moons, asteroids, and hidden orbital positions, dormant systems began to wake. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, beneath its methane seas, enormous fusion reactors hummed to life. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be ordinary mining facilities suddenly reconfigured, revealing advanced weapon emplacements. And within Neptune's turbulent atmosphere, something massive shifted, disturbing the planet's magnetic field as it rose toward the surface. The Zaxian destroyers approached Mars confidently, weapons charging to target the small defensive platforms and the human colony beneath its red surface. Admiral Zex Terrell watched with satisfaction from his command chair, expecting a brief, one-sided battle before the humans begged for terms. "Sir," called a sensor officer, her skin suddenly paling to a concerned blue. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from Saturn's system. Probably their primitive early warning systems," Zex Terrell replied dismissively. "Nothing to." "Energy spike," shouted another officer in alarm. "Massive displacement detected near Titan." The view screen automatically shifted to show Saturn and its moons. There, emerging from Titan's thick atmosphere, rose a vessel unlike anything the Zaxians had ever seen. It wasn't built with the angular, aggressive lines of Zaxian warships, nor did it resemble the known designs of any galactic power. Instead, it appeared almost organic, with a dark hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It was enormous, at least 5 kilometers in length, and surrounded by a faint blue field that distorted space itself around the vessel. "Impossible," whispered Vexora. "Our intelligence indicated they had no deep space capital ships." On Earth, Chen watched the Zaxians' reaction with grim satisfaction. "Harbinger 1 is online," reported a technician. "All systems nominal. Quantum shields at full capacity." "Deploy the Sentinels," Chen ordered. Throughout the asteroid belt, seemingly ordinary rocks suddenly burst apart, revealing hundreds of sleek combat drones. Each was relatively small, barely 20 meters in length, but moved with impossible speed and precision. Within moments, they had formed a defensive screen between Mars and the approaching Zaxian destroyers. Admiral Zex Terrell recovered quickly from his surprise. A single large vessel and some fighter drones. Is this their great defense? His skin flushed purple again with renewed confidence. "Order the destroyers to eliminate those drones and continue toward Mars. Send the second wave to intercept that capital ship." The Zaxian destroyers opened fire, their plasma cannons lancing toward the human drones. But instead of the easy victory they expected, something unprecedented happened. The plasma beams approached the drones and then, bent, they curved away, redirected by invisible forces, some even turning back toward the Zaxian vessels. "Gravitational manipulation technology," gasped Vexora. "But that's theoretical, even for the elder races." The human drones didn't return fire immediately. Instead, they accelerated toward the Zaxian formation with impossible speed, weaving between plasma bolts with precision that suggested either incredible AI or pilot reflexes beyond biological limits. "They're scanning us," reported a Zaxian technician, panic evident in her voice. "Deep penetrating scans. They're mapping our shield frequencies." Only then did the drones open fire. Not with conventional weapons, but with narrow beams of concentrated energy that shifted frequency continuously, adapting in real time to the Zaxian shields. The first destroyer's shields failed within seconds, and the beam sliced through its hull like it was paper, cutting the vessel in half with surgical precision. In Facility 0, Chen watched the battle unfold. "Phase 1 performance exceeding expectations," reported Raman. Sentinel drones reporting 97% effectiveness. The Zaxian destroyers are attempting to regroup. "And Harbinger 1?" Chen asked. "Fully operational. The Zaxians are diverting their second wave to intercept. 50 cruiser-class vessels, moving at attack speed." Chen nodded. "Have Harbinger 1 power its main system, but hold position. Let's see how they respond to the Sentinels first." In space, The battle had turned chaotic. The Zaxian destroyers abandoned their tight formation, trying desperately to target the human drones that moved with impossible agility. 3 more destroyers had been destroyed, cut apart by the precision beams, while others reported critical shield failures. From the inevitable conquest, Admiral Zex Terrell watched in growing horror as his first wave was decimated. His skin had paled to a sickly white, the color of fear among his kind. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These humans were nothing. Primitives barely able to reach their own moon a few centuries ago." Vexora had no answer, her own skin matching the Admiral's fearful pallor. "The second wave is engaging the human capital ship," reported a tactical officer. On the view screen, 50 Zaxian cruisers approached the enormous vessel that had emerged from Titan. They fired in unison, hundreds of plasma bolts and high-energy particle beams converging on the human ship. The blue field surrounding the vessel flared brilliantly as it absorbed the combined firepower of 50 warships, an assault that could have cracked a small moon. When the barrage ended, the field dimmed again, revealing the vessel completely undamaged. "No effect," whispered the tactical officer in disbelief. "Their shields absorbed everything." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zex Terrell felt genuine fear grip his hearts. "All ships, focus fire on that vessel. Launch all fighter squadrons. Call in the third wave." Back on Earth, Chen received the latest telemetry. "The Zaxians are committing their reserves earlier than expected," noted Okafor. "Their third wave is moving into attack position." Chen considered this development. "They're panicking." "Good." She straightened her uniform jacket. "Time for Phase 2. Authorize Harbinger 1 to engage the quantum drive." On the main view screen, they watched as the massive human vessel seemed to shimmer, its outline becoming indistinct. Around it, space itself appeared to fold and ripple. "By the ancestors," breathed Vexora as she watched from the Zaxian flagship. "What are they doing?" The answer came seconds later as the human vessel simply vanished, not with the flash of a jump drive or the distortion of a wormhole generator, but by simply ceasing to exist in one location. An instant later, alarms blared throughout the inevitable conquest. "Spatial anomaly detected," shouted a sensor officer, directly behind the command section. The view screen shifted to show the impossible. The human vessel had appeared in the heart of the Zaxian formation, less than 10 kilometers from the flagship itself. There had been no warning, no detection of approach. It had bypassed not only the vast distance, but all of the Zaxian sensor nets and defensive screens. As the Zaxian officers stared in shock, the human vessel began to transform. Sections of its hull reconfigured, revealing weapon ports that hadn't been visible before. A soft blue glow emanated from these openings, building in intensity. Admiral Zex Terrell found his voice at last. "Evasive maneuvers. All ships, concentrated fire." But it was too late. The human vessel released pulses of energy, not directed beams or projectiles, but expanding spheres of blue radiance. Where these spheres touched Zaxian ships, the vessels simply stopped. Their engines died, weapons went dark, and even their artificial gravity failed. Within seconds, 20 cruisers drifted powerless, their crews trapped inside the suddenly lifeless hulls. On the command deck of the inevitable conquest, Admiral Zex Terrell watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. The remaining destroyers from the first wave were now all destroyed or disabled. Half the second wave drifted powerless, while the rest tried desperately to target either the capital ship or the swarm of drones that continued to cut through their formation with precision. And still, the massive human vessel hadn't even fired a conventional weapon. "Admiral," Vexora said quietly, her voice steady despite her fear, "we need to withdraw and report this to the Imperial Command. We cannot defeat this technology." Zex Terrell's skin darkened to the deep blue of rage and humiliation. The Zaxian Empire does not retreat from primitives. Order the third wave tow. His command was interrupted by an incoming transmission. On the screen appeared Commander Maya Chen, her expression calm and resolute. Admiral Zex Terrell, you have witnessed only a fraction of Earth's defensive capabilities. Your first and second waves have been neutralized. Your flagship is now targeted by weapons that could reduce it to its component atoms in seconds. I offer you one chance to withdraw your remaining forces from the Sol system. Zex Terrell's skin rippled with conflicting emotions. Rage, fear, disbelief. This is impossible, he snarled. Your species was studying its own genome when mine was already traveling between stars. Chen's expression didn't change. That was precisely the point, Admiral. While you conquered, we studied. While you fought wars of expansion, we prepared for one war of survival. Everything you've seen was built for this moment, the moment when the Zaxian Empire finally turned its gaze toward Earth. She leaned forward slightly. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal. After that, we will eliminate your remaining forces. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, leaving the Zaxian command deck in stunned silence. Vexora moved closer to the Admiral and spoke in a hushed tone. Sir, our ships are being disabled without destruction. The humans could have annihilated us already. This is unprecedented restraint. Admiral Zex Terrell stared at the view screen, at the impossible human vessel floating amid his crippled fleet. His mighty Armada, the pride of the Zaxian Imperial fleet, had been defeated not through a glorious battle, but through technological superiority so vast it bordered on the miraculous. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a disturbing thought formed. If this was what the humans had hidden beneath their moons and planets, what else might they be concealing? Reckoning dawn. Admiral Zex Terrell stood frozen before the view screen, watching as more of his fleet's vessels drifted powerless through the void. The impossible human warship, this harbinger, remained positioned at the heart of his formation, its hull absorbing rather than reflecting the light of the distant sun. Behind him, the command deck of the inevitable conquest had fallen silent. The only sounds the soft alerts from monitoring stations and the nervous breathing of his officers. Admiral, Vexora said quietly, her skin shifting between the blue of concern and the white of fear. We must make a decision. The human ultimatum expires in 52 minutes. Zex Terrell's own skin darkened to the deep purple of determination. Contact the Imperial Command. Priority Alpha. We need reinforcements. Sir, his communications officer replied hesitantly. Our quantum relays are being interfered with. We cannot establish a stable connection outside this system. The Admiral's head snapped toward the officer. Impossible. Our relays use frequencies and technologies unknown to us until recently, came a new voice. The view screen shifted to show Commander Maya Chen again, but this time she wasn't alone. Beside her stood an older human with silver hair and piercing eyes that seemed to look through Zex Terrell rather than at him. Admiral, Chen said, allow me to introduce Director Elias Ramirez, the architect of Project Harbinger. Ramirez studied the Zaxian Admiral with clinical detachment. We've been studying your quantum relay technology for decades, Admiral. Every time one of your scout ships passed within a light year of our system, we were learning. Every transmission you thought was secure, we were decoding. Your encryption algorithms are elegant, but ultimately predictable. Zex Terrell felt his secondary heart begin to race. You're lying. Our technology is derived from the Elder Archives themselves. Yes, Ramirez nodded. The archives your people found on Proxima Centauri IV. We found them too, Admiral. 300 years ago. While your scholars were deciphering the basics, we had already moved beyond them. On Earth, in Facility Zero, Chen turned to Ramirez after the transmission ended. You enjoyed that, she noted with the hint of a smile. The older man shrugged. After watching these butchers for decades, destroying civilizations that refused to kneel, yes, I enjoyed seeing the fear in his eyes. He turned serious again. But they won't retreat. Not yet. The Zaxian military doctrine doesn't allow for failure. especially against what they consider an inferior species. Then what will they do? Something desperate, Ramirez replied. They'll try to salvage their pride, even if it costs them more ships. As if confirming his prediction, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Commander, called out Lieutenant Raman, the Zaxian third wave is accelerating toward Earth. They've bypassed both Mars and the asteroid belt defenses. 86 vessels, including their super dreadnought. Chen's eyes narrowed. So they're sacrificing their disabled ships and making a run directly for Earth. They think if they can get past Harbinger and the Sentinels, they can force our surrender by threatening the homeworld directly. She turned to Ramirez. It's time for Phase 3. Ramirez hesitated for the first time. Maya, once we activate Phase 3, there's no going back. The conduits won't just be defensive weapons anymore. We always knew this day would come, Chen replied firmly. That's why we built them in the first place. She turned to her executive officer. Commander Okafor, authenticate Phase 3. Authorization, Chen, Alpha 6 Nebula Obsidian. Throughout the solar system, new systems began to activate. Deep beneath the lunar surface, massive particle accelerators powered up, their energies guided through artificial channels that defied conventional physics. Across Earth's oceans, what appeared to be ordinary research platforms suddenly submerged, descending to hidden facilities on the seabed where they connected to a global network of quantum computers. And in low Earth orbit, 6 satellites that had been disguised as weather monitoring stations shed their outer hulls, revealing crystalline structures that began to align with mathematical precision. On the inevitable conquest, Admiral Zex Terrell watched his third wave accelerate toward Earth, now committed to a desperate gamble. If they could get even a few ships past the human defenses, they might still force a surrender. Admiral, his sensor officer called out, voice shaking, I'm detecting new energy signatures from Earth's moon. The view screen shifted to show the lunar surface, where bright blue lights had begun to appear in patterns across the dark side. As they watched, the lights intensified, seeming to connect with each other through luminous threads just beneath the surface. What are they doing? Zex Terrell demanded. No one had an answer, but they soon received a demonstration. From 6 points on the lunar surface, brilliant beams of energy erupted simultaneously, converging in orbit before splitting again to form a complex geometric web of light that expanded outward at impossible speed. The web engulfed the approaching Zaxian fleet in seconds. Where it touched, Zaxian ships simply stopped, not disabled like before, but frozen in space as though time itself had ceased to flow around them. Temporal stasis field, whispered Vex Aura in awe. They'd weaponized time itself. Only the inevitable conquest and a few ships in its immediate vicinity remained unaffected, protected by the flagship's powerful shields. But they were now effectively isolated, cut off from their attack force, and unable to advance or retreat through the expanding web of energy. In Facility 0, Chen watched the stasis field deploy with satisfaction. Lunar conduits operating at 98% efficiency, reported Okafor. 82 enemy vessels contained in temporal stasis. The field will hold for approximately 6 hours before requiring recalibration. And the flagship? Chen asked. Still operational, along with 7 escorts. They're holding position just outside the stasis field. Chen nodded. Send the final message. On the inevitable conquest, Admiral Zex Terrell was frantically ordering his technicians to find a way through the stasis field when Commander Chen appeared on the view screen again. Admiral Zex Terrell, she said, her voice now carrying an edge of steel, you have witnessed 3 phases of Earth's defense systems. Your fleet is neutralized. Your attack has failed. But you should know that what you've seen represents less than half of our full capabilities. The view screen split to show multiple locations throughout the solar system. On Mercury, enormous facilities previously hidden beneath the surface were opening like mechanical flowers. In the Kuiper belt beyond Neptune, What had appeared to be ordinary asteroids were reorganizing themselves into massive orbital platforms. Project Harbinger was designed with a single purpose, Chen continued, not just to defend Earth, but to ensure that no species would ever again threaten human existence. We studied your empire, Admiral. We watched as you subjugated the Crawl, as you reduced the Vexiri homeworld to ash, as you harvested the Telosian system for resources while its inhabitants starved. Her eyes hardened. We decided long ago that we would not be your next victims, so we prepared. While you conquered other worlds, we focused our entire industrial and scientific output on creating defenses that would render us untouchable. On the command deck of the inevitable conquest, the Zaxian officers watched in stunned silence as more and more human weapons platforms revealed themselves throughout the solar system. "This is your final warning," Chen said. "You have 30 minutes to order all your remaining operational vessels to withdraw beyond the orbit of Pluto. After that, we will activate our remaining defense systems, and your ships will be destroyed." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Vexora approached the Admiral, her skin now the pale blue of resignation. "Sir, we cannot win this battle. These humans, they've been preparing for us specifically. Everything they've built was designed to counter our technology." Zexteral's skin had faded to a dull gray, the color of profound shock among his kind. "How did we not know? Our intelligence networks spanned the galaxy. We had scouts pass through this system dozens of times over the centuries, and they let us see exactly what they wanted us to see." Vexora replied softly, "Sir, we must withdraw. The Empire needs to know what we face here." Across the solar system, the battle, if it could still be called that, had turned into a one-sided demonstration of technological superiority. The human drones continued to systematically disable any Zaxian vessel that still showed signs of resistance. The massive Harbinger vessel remained positioned near the Zaxian flagship, a silent sentinel monitoring their every move. In Facility Zero, Chen and Ramirez watched the Zaxian command ship carefully. "They're transmitting something," reported the communications officer. "It appears to be an order to their remaining operational vessels." On the tactical display, the 7 Zaxian escorts still capable of movement began to turn away from Earth, accelerating slowly toward the outer system. "And the flagship?" Chen asked. "Maintaining position," Raman replied. "No indication of retreat." Ramirez frowned. "Pride. It's going to get them killed." Chen stepped forward. "Open a direct channel to Admiral Zexteral. Private communication." Moments later, the Zaxian Admiral appeared on her screen, his skin still the dull gray of shock. "Admiral," Chen began, "your escorts are withdrawing, but your flagship remains. You have 22 minutes before we activate our final countermeasures." Zexteral stared at her with all 4 of his eyes. "You've destroyed the pride of the Imperial fleet without firing a single conventional weapon," he said, his voice hollow. "If I return to the Empire in defeat, I will be executed for failure." "Then don't return to the Empire," Chen replied simply. "Take your ship and your crew, and go elsewhere. The galaxy is vast." The Admiral's skin rippled with surprise. "You would let us leave after we came to conquer your world?" "Our goal was never conquest, Admiral, only survival. We built Harbinger not because we wanted to fight, but because we knew that someday we would have to." Chen's expression softened fractionally. "Humanity has no interest in empire. We defend what is ours, but we don't seek what belongs to others." She leaned forward. "Go. Tell others what you saw here today. Tell them that Earth is not a prize to be claimed, or a resource to be exploited. Tell them that we wish to be left in peace, but that we are prepared for war like none they've ever seen." For a long moment, the Zaxian Admiral was silent, studying the human commander with new understanding. Finally, his skin shifted to the deep blue of decision. "We will withdraw," he said at last. "But know this, Commander Chen, the Empire will not forget this defeat. They will study what happened here. They will adapt. They will return. Chen nodded solemnly. And we'll be ready when they do. The massive Zaxian flagship slowly turned away from Earth, its engines flaring as it accelerated to join its escorts. Facility Zero erupted in cheers and applause, but Chen and Ramirez remained silent, watching the tactical display as the remaining Zaxian vessels retreated toward the outer system. "We should destroy that flagship," Ramirez said quietly, so only Chen could hear. "They'll report everything they've seen. The next attack will be better prepared." Chen shook her head. "We need them to report what they've seen. Fear is a powerful deterrent, Elias. The Empire needs to understand exactly what awaits them if they ever return." "And if they do return," he asked, "then they'll discover that what we revealed today was precisely what we wanted them to see." She turned to face the old scientist. "Project Harbinger has 9 phases, Elias. We only showed them 3. Later, as the Zaxian ships disappeared beyond the orbit of Pluto, Chen stood alone in her office, looking at a holographic display of the solar system. The Harbinger vessel had returned to Titan, submerging itself once again beneath the moon's thick atmosphere. The Sentinel drones had retreated to their hiding places in the asteroid belt. The lunar conduits had powered down, their energy signatures fading from sensors. To any observer, the Sol system would again appear relatively peaceful and undefended, just as it had before the Zaxians arrived. A soft chime announced a visitor, and Chen turned to see Ramirez entering with 2 glasses and a bottle of scotch. "I thought we could use this," he said, pouring amber liquid into both glasses. "It's not every day you save human civilization." Chen accepted the glass, but didn't drink immediately. "We didn't save it today, Elias. We just bought it time." "Time is all any civilization ever has," the old scientist replied, taking a seat. "What matters is what we do with it." Chen finally took a sip, letting the scotch burn pleasantly down her throat. "The cabinet is meeting in an hour. They'll want to know if we should reveal Harbinger to the public now that it's been seen in action." "And what will you tell them?" She looked back at the holographic display, at the countless hidden installations and weapons platforms that had taken generations to build in perfect secrecy. "I'll tell them what I've always said. The best defense is the one your enemy doesn't know exists until it's too late." She raised her glass slightly. "To Project Harbinger. May we never need to use it again." Ramirez raised his glass in return. "But if we do, then God help whoever comes next," Chen finished. Across the vast emptiness of space, the Zaxian flagship Inevitable Conquest continued its journey away from the Sol system, its admiral standing silently before the view screen. Behind him, his officers worked in uncharacteristic silence, still processing their defeat. Vexor approached cautiously. "Admiral, we'll reach the nearest relay point in 6 days. From there, we can transmit our report to Imperial Command." Zexteril didn't respond immediately, his eyes fixed on the distant image of Earth's sun, now just one more star among many. "In 3 centuries of service to the Empire," he finally said, "I have participated in the conquest of 17 systems and the subjugation of 32 species." He turned to face his second-in-command. "Not once did I encounter a species that had dedicated their entire existence to defense rather than expansion. Not once did I find a civilization that hid its true capabilities so completely, so patiently." "What will you tell Imperial Command?" Vexora asked. The Admiral's skin shifted to a color she had never seen before, a deep, complex violet that seemed to contain flecks of gold. It was the color of profound realization. "I will tell them that we have found something new in the galaxy," he said quietly. "Not just a new species or a new technology, but a new idea. A civilization that doesn't seek conquest, that doesn't measure its greatness by the worlds it controls or the species it dominates." He turned back to the view screen, to that distant point of light that was Earth's sun. "I will tell them that we have found the one thing the Zaxian Empire has never encountered before." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "An enemy we cannot defeat." In the darkness between stars, The inevitable conquest continued its retreat, carrying with it a message that would soon reshape the politics of an entire galaxy. And behind it, Earth continued its silent orbit, its true power once again hidden beneath moons and planets and asteroids, waiting patiently for the day it would be needed again. For humanity had learned long ago the most important lesson of survival. True strength lies not in what your enemies see, but in what they don't, until it's far too late.